let's talk about inspections, right? So
Inspections.
typically the inspection period in the contract, if we don't change it, is 17 days. So contract is accepted, your offer is accepted. Now we have 17 days to get our inspections done. Okay, we have 17 days to review the disclosures. We're going to come back to that. And then also negotiate within that 17 days anything that we want to see have happen. They typically run between 2-3 hours, depending on the type of the house. Our preferred home inspector wants you there, right? He wants to show you everything, talk about all the things that he finds, and gives you the opportunity to ask questions. So really, it should be interactive. And then typical home inspection costs $450, $500, depending on how big the house is, whether you want the pool, the granny unit.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of expect about $500, for that kind of cost.
And the good thing about that is you can get a little bit. I know you can get a better insight on what the home you're purchasing.
Very good.
So
yeah. So other costs are other inspections could be a pest inspection. So that's going to talk about bugs and bats and all sorts of things. Termites. I didn't want to say that word.
I know.
People
I didn't want to say
out.
that. It's not as bad as what it's out to be.
Yeah, and organisms like dry rot. Okay, so they're going to walk around with a ski pole and poke holes in the wood, make sure that there's nothing going on. They're going to look for bug poop, all sorts of stuff, and identify if there's issues. Now, in the pest report, there's going to be Section 1 items and Section 2 items. Section 1 items are the things that are actually wrong now. Okay? That's all the conditions that are active. Section 2 items, which may or may not be important, are conditions that could lead to a Section 1 item. Like a common one is a loose toilet. Loose toilet may not be a problem, but it could be leaking.
Yes.
It could leak in the future, even though it's not leaking now. So that's kind of what you see on those. A pest inspection runs you about $100. Half the time the sellers pick that up. Okay, that's a very common seller cost. So that's something we're going to be talking about when we write the offer. Who pays for the pest inspection? Some lenders will require for the loan program that the Section 1 or Section 2 items be completed before close of escrow. So we need to be smart on where we put that in the contract, or even if we put it in the contract and let the lenders know about it. It all depends on the type of the property and your type of loan. Right? So
it's very common.
An agent who closes 3 deals in his lifetime may not know that.
Yeah, and that's kind of comes back down to the communication. We want everyone to be in the same page, same time, or else things go crazy.
So what other inspections are there?
What did we cover? We covered the home inspection.
What about a septic?
Oh, a septic.
Right?
Yeah, some properties have
a septic tank.
So a septic inspection, that's a lot of people don't know what goes on with this septic inspection. Well, you want to know how much it's pumping water, if the water's in there.
Yeah, what they're going to do is they're going to pump it out, inspect the tank, and then inspect the leach field to make sure everything's kind of flowing properly. Now, that cost for the septic inspection itself is not terribly expensive, between $300 and $500, depending on the provider and whatnot. But the major cost in it is if they got to dig it up. They got to dig it up.
Yeah.
So if we're out in the country, we're showing you property, we're looking for those big green discs that are the risers and the access to the septic tank, because they just pop those off, pump it, and away we go. If we don't have access to the septic tank, they got to bring a big old digger and a backhoe and uncover it. They're usually 4 to 5 feet under the ground, right? Like a dead body.
And it's important because we don't want you to get stuck with the cost after we close.
No. So yeah. Another inspection, if you're out in the country, might be a well inspection.
Well,
right? A lot of properties locally pump their own water. And depending on what you're going to use the water for, if it's just a single family residence, or you're growing grapes, or some of that other stuff that might need water, it's going to determine what type of test.
Or just water for your house. You're out in the country, might not be hooked up for water, so wells are super important.
So typical well test is about a 4-hour pump test where they pump that water out for 4 hours. They're going to measure the volume of water that's coming out. I call that gallons per
Gallons.
minute. You don't need a lot to run a residence because you got a big storage tank. So 2 or 3 gallons a minute might suffice depending on your needs. But they're also going to check how low that water table drops during those 4 hours and how deep that well is. So if your well's 150 feet and your water table originally starts at 100 feet, but it drops to 140 feet in 4 hours, you might have some issues.
That's a problem.
You might have some issues.
Yeah.
If it doesn't drop at all, that's good. You got good water. I don't know. All this stuff. And they're also going to tell you if you can drink it.
And that'll be all included in the inspection.
Yeah.
So that's why we can't stress enough to get these inspections done prior to closing, because
Exactly.
we can surface up any problems that might be going on with the property now before you have to assume the property.
Yeah, typical well inspection costs between $300 and $400 depending on how long, and that's obviously going to vary between vendor and a vendor, or
Time.
I can't quote prices, but anyway.